We did not have any evidence that Iran intended to imminently attack this country in any way, shape, or form. So I disagree with your assessment that we were under threat.
Do you not believe them when they say death to America?
Listen, our adversaries use rhetoric all the time. What I'm concerned about is we are not safer, and I would just like to know why you have not sought the support of the American people, and 3 out of 5 Americans are against this war today.
Senator Kirsten Gillibrand looked Secretary Pete Hegseth in the eye and said 3 out of 5 Americans are against this war. She asked about schools being bombed, about artificial intelligence making targeting decisions, about $1 billion a day being spent. Secretary Pete Hegseth had talking points, but no real answers. Stay right here.
Cotton, Senator Gillibrand, and then Senator Rounds.
Thank you, gentlemen, for appearing before this committee, and thank you for the closed session prior to this. I don't know if you fully appreciate how much the American people do not support this war. It is an unauthorized war. Normally, when you come to Congress, it's a way for the American people to be part of that discussion. The American people, particularly in my state of New York, are upset for a lot of reasons. First of all, this war is costing so much money. Over $25 billion already, estimates $1 billion a day, and they're feeling it every single day at the gas pump with higher prices for both fuel, for diesel, for gasoline for their cars. They're also feeling it with higher grocery costs, and they're exhausted. They are truly exhausted. On top of that, they have so many grave concerns about how this war is being prosecuted. They read in the paper that 22 schools have been hit. They read in the paper about a girls' school, hundreds getting killed. We have a debate going on in this country about AI, a serious debate about AI. And I haven't heard yet from you that you will not allow AI to make final targeting determinations, even when nuclear weapons are being used. That's a huge issue that we need to discuss. So I want to start from the top, Secretary Hegseth. Why do you continue to prosecute a war that the American people aren't behind?
First of all, I appreciate the opportunity for that closed session where we had a, unsurprisingly, very different discussion than we have here with the cameras on. We support this
because my job is to represent New Yorkers, and I can tell you, when I talk to them all across my state, they are furious, and they expect me to explain to them why they are furious.
And Senator, when I talk to Americans, and especially when I talk to the troops, they are grateful for a president who has the courage to take on this threat after 47 years of what Iran has done, targeting and killing Americans, and what it would mean to the world if Iran's nuclear ambitions were actually achieved. So the question I would ask to you and to others is, what is the cost of a nuclear-armed Iran? What is the cost to the American people if the world's most dangerous regime has a nuclear weapon?
But the truth is, they don't want war coming to this shore, and when you do a decapitation operation, the likelihood is going to be exchanged in the United States. There's no evidence that we are safer because of this war. We did not have any evidence that Iran intended to imminently attack this country in any way, shape, or form. So I disagree with your assessment that we were under threat.
Do you not believe them when they say death to America?
Listen, our adversaries use rhetoric all the time. What I'm concerned about is we are not safer, and I would just like to know why you have not sought the support of the American people, and 3 out of 5 Americans are against this war today.
I believe we do have the support of the American people, and we have briefed regularly what this mission looks like and why it's critically important that we undertake it. And I would remind you and this group that we're 2 months in to an effort. And many congressional Democrats, as I pointed out, want to declare defeat 2 months in. Iraq took how many years? Afghanistan took how many years? And they were nebulous missions that people went along with. This is different. This is a defined mission set that we have had great success in pursuing against a determined enemy who seeks nuclear weapons. And I'm proud of the opportunity to remind the American people, because they believe in it as well, that they can't have it.
You don't care whether
when the American people and the American people are quite smart. They understand and see through spin. They know that a regime that says death to America, that seeks nuclear weapons and the ability to deliver. Did they lie about the range of their missiles?
How much more?
Because I saw a 4,000-kilometer missile
How much more will you ask the American people to pay for this war?
Diego
right
Garcia.
now, do you want it $1 billion a day? Do you want it $2 billion a day? You're asking for $200 billion more to fund this war and to make sure we have
didn't ask for $200 billion. I don't know where you got that number from, Senator. I think you got it from the news, which you should be careful what you read in the news.
Okay, Mr. Hegseth, Secretary Hegseth, here's a few more. Let's talk about how you're prosecuting the war. What is your response to targeting that has resulted in the destruction of schools, hospitals, civilian places? Why did you cut by 90% the division that's supposed to help you not target civilians? And do you know the impact of a strategic failure at a war when you have so many civilian casualties? You may have tactically completed a mission well, but strategically is not meeting your goals because of the harms to civilians. What is the cost of that?
Let's leave time for an answer.
No military, no country works harder at every echelon to ensure they protect civilian lives than the United States military. And that is an ironclad commitment that we make, no matter what systems we use.
And why did you cut the department by 90%?
Thank you, Senator Gillibrand. There'll be other rounds of questions.
Let us break this down carefully, because Senator Kirsten Gillibrand covered more ground in her time than almost any other member of that committee. And Secretary Pete Hegseth's responses revealed something important about how this administration views public opinion, congressional oversight, and the cost of war. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand represents New York, and she opened her questioning with something direct and uncomfortable. She told Secretary Pete Hegseth, "I do not know if you fully appreciate how much the American people do not support this war. That is not a political attack. That is a factual statement backed by polling data that shows 3 out of 5 Americans are against this war today." And Senator Kirsten Gillibrand made clear she is hearing it directly from her constituents. The people of New York are furious, and they sent her to that hearing room to get answers. So what are they angry about? Senator Kirsten Gillibrand laid it out plainly. This war has already cost over $25 billion, with estimates suggesting it is burning through approximately $1 billion every single day. The American people are feeling that cost, not in abstract budget numbers, but at the gas pump, in higher fuel prices for their cars, higher diesel prices for the trucks that deliver their food, and higher grocery bills at the checkout line. Every single day, the financial pressure of this war is landing on ordinary American families. And on top of that financial burden, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand said the American people have grave concerns about how this war is actually being fought. She said people are reading in the newspaper that 22 schools had been struck. 22 schools. She mentioned a girls' school, where hundreds of people were killed. These are not military installations. These are places where children go to learn. And the American people want to know, how does that happen, and what is being done to make sure it does not happen again? Then Senator Kirsten Gillibrand raised something that very few members of that committee had brought up directly: artificial intelligence. She said there is a serious national debate happening right now about the role of artificial intelligence in warfare, and she has not yet heard Secretary Pete Hegseth say clearly that artificial intelligence will not be allowed to make final targeting determinations, even when nuclear weapons are involved. Read that slowly. The question is whether a computer program, an algorithm, could potentially make the decision to use a nuclear weapon without a human being making the final call. That is not a science fiction scenario. That is a live policy question, and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand wants a clear answer on the record. Secretary Pete Hegseth did not give one during her time. Then Senator Kirsten Gillibrand asked the most fundamental question of the entire exchange. She looked at Secretary Pete Hegseth and asked, "Why do you continue to prosecute a war that the American people are not behind?" Secretary Pete Hegseth's answer was revealing. He started by noting that the closed session earlier, the classified briefing that happened before the public hearing, had a very different tone than what was happening with cameras rolling. That is worth pausing on. The Secretary of Defense essentially said, the real conversation happens in private, and what you see in public is different. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand was not impressed by that. She said plainly, her job is to represent New Yorkers, and when she talks to them across the state, they are furious, and they expect her to explain why. Secretary Pete Hegseth then made his argument for the war. He said when he talks to Americans, and especially when he talks to troops, they are grateful for a president who had the courage to take on the Iranian nuclear threat after 47 years of Iran targeting and killing Americans. He asked Senator Kirsten Gillibrand directly, what is the cost of a nuclear-armed Iran? What does it mean to the world if Iran actually achieves its nuclear ambitions? That is a legitimate question, and it deserves a serious answer. But Senator Kirsten Gillibrand had a direct counter. She said there was no evidence that Iran intended to imminently attack the United States in any way, shape, or form. She said adversaries use threatening rhetoric all the time, and the question is not whether Iran says death to America, but whether the United States is actually safer because of this war. And her position is clear. There is no evidence that we are safer. Secretary Pete Hegseth pushed back, saying the administration has regularly briefed Congress on the mission, and that this is a defined mission with clear goals, unlike Iraq or Afghanistan, which were nebulous conflicts that dragged on for years. But Senator Kirsten Gillibrand was not satisfied with that comparison. She pointed out that the American people are smart, they understand spin, and 3 out of 5 of them are against this war right now, 2 months in. Then she moved to the civilian casualty issue, and this is where the exchange became most uncomfortable for Secretary Pete Hegseth. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand asked him directly, what is his response to targeting decisions that have resulted in the destruction of schools, hospitals, and civilian places? And then she asked a follow-up question that Secretary Pete Hegseth never fully answered. Why did the department cut by 90%, the division that is specifically responsible for helping avoid civilian casualties in targeting decisions? 90%. If that number is accurate, that is not a minor budget trim. That is the near elimination of the very team whose job it is to make sure bombs do not fall on schools and hospitals. Secretary Pete Hegseth responded by saying no military in the world works harder, at every level, to protect civilian lives than the United States military, and that it is an ironclad commitment. But Senator Kirsten Gillibrand pressed again. She raised the concept of strategic failure. She said you can tactically complete a mission successfully, hit the target you were aiming at, and still lose the war strategically, because the civilian harm you caused turned the population against you, turned allies against you, and made your ultimate goal impossible to achieve. That is a lesson from military history. Tactical success without strategic wisdom is not victory. It is a more expensive path to failure. Secretary Pete Hegseth did not have time to respond fully because Senator Kirsten Gillibrand's time expired. And that is the story of this exchange. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand came in representing furious constituents, asking about the billion-dollar daily cost of this war, about 22 schools struck, about artificial intelligence and targeting decisions, about a 90% cut to the Civilian Protection Division, and about whether this war is making America safer at all. Secretary Pete Hegseth gave her talking points about courage, comparisons to Iraq and Afghanistan, and an ironclad commitment to protecting civilian lives, from a department that apparently just cut the team responsible for doing exactly that by 90%. The American people deserve straight answers. And Senator Kirsten Gillibrand made sure the record shows they are not getting them. If this breakdown helped you understand what is happening, share it with someone who needs to see it. Leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe so you do not miss the next one.